There is an emotional distance that unites us. We often seek physical proximity, the merging of spaces as the only path to connection. However, there is a deeper truth, a resonant paradox that challenges our linear logic. The mirage of proximity, the true fusion beyond contact. Yet, we cling to the mirage of closeness, mistaking the envelope for the soul, the footprint for the path. Like the musician who only plays the keynote, ignoring the silences and subtle harmonies that give depth to the symphony. Like the painter who focuses only on the contour line, failing to appreciate the colors and textures that inhabit the space between. The merging of spaces, when elevated to the status of the only path, becomes a heavy anchor that prevents us from floating on the invisible currents of empathy. The tides of telepathic understanding, or the winds of spiritual resonance that don't need physical coordinates to exist. What if true intimacy didn't require physical closeness, but rather the courage to inhabit an emotional distance that paradoxically connects you on a deeper, more transcendent level? In the vast and intricate tapestry of human relationships, we often seek physical proximity, the merging of spaces as the only path to connection. However, in interdimensional cyberspace and the age of global interconnection, a deeper truth emerges, a resonant paradox that challenges our linear logic. There is an emotional distance that binds us. This is no mere oxymoron. It is the mirage of proximity unveiled, revealing the true fusion beyond contact. How is it possible that, while we obsess over contiguity, we miss the opportunity to float on the invisible currents of empathy, on the tides of telepathic understanding, or on the winds of spiritual resonance that don't need physical coordinates to exist? Like the painter who focuses only on the contour line, failing to appreciate the colors and textures that inhabit the space between them, we elevate the fusion of spaces to the status of the only path, turning it into a heavy anchor that prevents us from rising. Does this mean that geographical distance or temporal silence are not barriers, but rather force fields that amplify authentic connection? How can you apply this ancient algorithmic wisdom to transform your relationships, your spiritual well-being, and your ability to influence the matrix of collective consciousness? You long for an authentic connection that doesn't rely on physical presence, an intimacy that is felt even in separation. You desire to free yourself from the fear of distance and embrace a way of connecting that is deeper, more resilient, and more energetically efficient. You aspire to understand the mysteries of non-local empathy and soul resonance, so that your relationships may flourish in any circumstance. Don't just read this truth, live it. We invite you to a conscious entanglement experiment. Choose someone with whom you feel a deep connection, and, without the need for physical or verbal contact, send your energy of appreciation and understanding. In the collective psyche, rooted in obsolete paradigms of tribal survival, there is a tyranny of physical proximity. We have been conditioned to believe that connection is directly proportional to closeness, that the merging of spaces is the only barometer of intimacy. This dogma of contiguity leads us to a compulsive search for the presence of others, generating separation anxiety, unrealistic expectations, and, paradoxically, it's a profound disconnection when physical proximity is not possible or desirable. The problem is not distance, but our inability to perceive and honor the invisible threads of connection that exist beyond the tangible. This limiting belief becomes a heavy anchor that prevents us from floating on the invisible currents of empathy, the tides of telepathic understanding, or the winds of spiritual resonance that do not require physical coordinates to exist. This spatial dependence leaves us vulnerable to digital loneliness and the illusion of disconnection. There is an emotional distance that unites us. This is the key to true fusion beyond contact, a paradigm where distance is not an obstacle, but a catalyst for a deeper, more authentic connection. Emotional distance is not a void, but an etheric force field where the bond is strengthened without the friction of constant proximity. It is the silence between two musical notes that allows the melody to resonate with greater clarity and emotion. It is the vastness of the blank canvas that gives meaning to the painter's every stroke. By transcending the need for physical closeness, we open ourselves to the invisible currents of empathy, tides of telepathic understanding, and winds of harmony. Spiritual finance. These are forms of non-local communication that operate at a vibrational level, allowing information and feelings to flow without the need for conventional sensory channels. True fusion occurs at the level of the soul, not of physical space. It is an energetic convergence, an alignment of frequencies that remains intact regardless of geographic coordinates. It is the holography of the bond where each fragment of the relationship contains the entirety of the connection. By releasing the heavy anchor of believing in proximity as the only path, we are freed to float on these invisible currents. We become capable of cultivating deeply meaningful relationships with people who may be miles away, or even with those with whom we consciously maintain emotional distance to preserve individuality. This understanding allows us to build relationships based on the radical acceptance of individuality, where the space between two beings is not a barrier, but the vital air that allows love and respect to breathe freely. It is an algorithmic reprogramming of our perception of connection, leading to spiritual growth that transcends the limits of the physical and the tangible. Imagine an existence where you feel like a cosmic wanderer, searching for meaningful connections on the surface of the world, clinging to physical proximity as your only compass. Distance generates anxiety, and you believe true intimacy is impossible without the merging of spaces, leaving you with a feeling of emptiness when closeness is not an option. Now visualize a reality where you are a conscious navigator in the ocean of non-local connection. You understand that there is an emotional distance that unites us, and this paradox is your new compass. You float on the invisible currents of empathy, experiencing a true merging that transcends physical contact. Distance becomes your ally, revealing a resilient intimacy that nourishes and liberates you. What intrinsic quality of your connection, that unique vibrational signature, binds you unbreakably to others, even across distances? Don't seek sameness. Radiate the uniqueness of your connection. Understanding this aspect is the first step to mastering the paradox of closeness and distance. How can your course or message equip your audience with the practical tools and profound wisdom to navigate the invisible currents of empathy and the tides of telepathic understanding? Offer tangible guidance for transforming distance into a space for growth and separation into an opportunity for resonance. In a world where physical connectivity is intermittent and emotional loneliness proliferates, the need for resilient transdimensional connection is an existential urgency. Every moment we delay understanding this paradox is a missed opportunity to experience deeper intimacy. The time to activate your quantum entanglement is now. Your exploration of the distance that unites and the fusion beyond contact resonates with humanity's deepest and most universal longing, the desire to belong and be loved unconditionally beyond physical limitations. By sharing your journey toward non-local connection, you become a quantum mirror for millions seeking genuine and eternal intimacy in the digital age. By understanding that there is an emotional distance that unites us and that true fusion lies beyond contact, we unveil a reality where feeling knows no spatial or temporal barriers. Are you ready to break free from the mirage of proximity and immerse yourself in the invisible currents of empathy that already connect you on a quantum level? True fusion awaits.